At the beginning of any meaningful acquaintance, we tend to fall into the same perceptual trap. We look at the person across from us and see only their present, the smile, the carefully curated image, the desire to please. We want to believe that our meeting is a clean slate, the start of a new book where the previous volumes hold no significance. This is a sweet but dangerous illusion. The truth that men often ignore is that a person is not a blank sheet of paper. They are a complex, multi-layered structure forged by years of habits, traumas, decisions made, and behavioral scripts learned. Ignoring a woman's past is not an act of nobility, as romantic movies would have you believe. It is a denial of reality. The past does not disappear. It transforms into patterns of behavior that will inevitably surface in your life together. If not tomorrow, then in 6 months. If not in 6 months, then during the first serious crisis. The ability to read these signs and analyze her history before you is the only way to understand who you are actually letting into your home and your soul. Let's break down in detail 10 fundamental signs signaling danger that men often overlook, charmed by the moment. The first and most powerful indicator is hidden in rhetoric. Listen not to what she tells you, but how she does it. When the conversation turns to past relationships, pay attention to the distribution of responsibility. A mature personality realizes that a relationship is a dance for two. Even if the breakup was painful, an adult is capable of admitting, "We didn't get along. I made mistakes too. We had different goals." This is a marker of adequacy. The alarm bell rings when her life story looks like a series of collisions with scoundrels. If all her exes are described with epithets like psycho, loser, abuser, or cheapskate, while she appears in these stories exclusively as the innocent victim suffering from others' malice, be careful. Statistically, it is impossible to constantly meet only bad people. If a person has problems with everyone around them, the problem lies within them. Such a stance speaks of a total inability to self-reflect. A person who does not see their contribution to the destruction of past relationships will not see it in yours either. In any argument, you will be the guilty one. You will become just another misunderstanding in her story for the next candidate. This behavioral pattern is called the externalization of blame. The source of trouble is always outside, never inside. It is impossible to build a dialogue with such a person because dialogue implies the admission of mistakes on both sides. The second aspect concerns her ability to be alone. Look at the chronology of her personal life. Are there pauses? Periods when she lived alone, focused on herself and her development, without being in search of or in a relationship? There is a type of person who jumps from one relationship to another, like stepping stones. As soon as one romance ends, the next begins immediately, often with an overlap. This phenomenon points to a deep inner void and an inability to tolerate one's own company. For her, another person is not an individual to get to know, but a function to drown out loneliness, a function to provide emotions, a function to solve domestic problems. Why is this dangerous for you? Because in such a relationship, you are simply a replaceable element. As soon as the novelty wears off and you stop generating the necessary level of dopamine, or as soon as you face difficulties and can't entertain her 24/7, she will start looking for a new source of supply. A person who cannot be happy in solitude cannot be happy in a couple because they use a partner as a crutch for their self-esteem. Essentially, she is not looking for a person to share life with, but someone to fill the inner silence that is unbearable to her. Instead of living through the pain of a breakup and drawing conclusions, she uses you as an emotional band-aid, hastily covering the wounds of a previous rupture. And like any band-aid, you will inevitably be peeled off and replaced the moment you become soaked in accumulated negativity or stop performing your protective function. The relationship with her father is the foundation upon which her perception of men is built. This is a psychological cliché, but it works flawlessly. It's not important whether the father was ideal, but whether there is respect for him now. Listen to the intonation. If her stories about her father are filled with contempt, neglect, mockery, or deep, unprocessed resentment, know this: that charge of negativity is intended for you as well. A woman who has not learned to respect the first man in her life will subconsciously look for reasons to devalue you too. This can manifest in small things, in how she comments on male mistakes, how she reacts to your decisions. If her default setting is an expectation of a trick or disappointment, you are doomed to constantly prove that you are not like that. But the paradox is that it is impossible to prove. Her psyche is honed to seek confirmation that all men are the same. Sooner or later you will stumble, and the trap will snap shut. I knew it. You're just like him. You are entering a hopeless competition with a ghost from her past, trying to compensate for trauma inflicted by another person with your good treatment. However, this mission is doomed, as she looks at you through the murky prism of old grievances, not noticing your real personality behind the massive figure of her father. Ultimately, you will be forced to pay someone else's bills, becoming a convenient target for the anger that has been accumulating in her soul for decades. The fourth sign is often romanticized and presented as a creative nature or spontaneity. We are talking about the chaotic nature of her life path. Dropped out of college halfway through, constant job changes, dozens of hobbies started and abandoned, impulsive moves. Many men are attracted to this brightness. It seems that one won't be bored with such a woman. However, life is not just a carnival. It is also routine, obligations, and the need to finish what you start. Chaos in external affairs is always a reflection of chaos in thoughts and feelings. A person who cannot hold down a job or stick with a hobby lacks the skill of patience and overcoming difficulties. Relationships inevitably go through crises and periods of calm. For a chaos person, tranquility is unbearable. It is perceived as boredom. You will constantly have to put on a show to hold her attention. Otherwise, she will create drama out of thin air just to feel that familiar adrenaline rush. Reliability and stability are incompatible with such a person. You will have to live in a mode of eternal turbulence, where every morning begins not with joint plans, but with anxious anticipation of her next impulsive decision that could cross out all your efforts. Building a family with someone who cannot organize even their own life is like building a house on quicksand. No matter how hard you try to reinforce the walls, the foundation will inevitably slip out from under your feet. The fifth point concerns money, but not the amount, rather, the attitude toward it. Find out how she solved her problems in the past. Was it reliance on her own strength, or the search for a sponsor? There is a fine line between the traditional view, where the man is the provider, and outright consumption. A consumerist attitude is betrayed by a lack of gratitude. It is taken for granted. Phrases like, "A man is obligated," "You must solve this," without a reciprocal contribution, emotional, domestic, supportive, are a signal. Remember our fact of life. Often, such women evaluate partners solely by their utility. As long as you are on top, as long as you provide comfort and gifts, you are loved. But this love is directed not at you as a person, but at the benefits you provide. As soon as you encounter temporary difficulties, illness, job loss, business crisis, you will be surprised to find that the support has vanished, replaced by complaints and coldness. Partnership is tested in a storm, while parasitism thrives only in calm waters. Such a worldview turns intimacy into a dry transaction, where your soul and feelings have no convertible value. You are not a life partner to her, but a temporary investor in a business project called her comfort, and your significance will zero out the exact second the dividends stop. Living with the feeling that you are valued only for functionality is a direct path to the deepest emotional burnout and loss of faith in the sincerity of human connections. We are the arithmetic average of the people we associate with. The sixth beacon is her immediate circle. Do not ignore this factor, believing that she is special and unlike her friends. Like attracts like. If her closest friends lead a lifestyle that contradicts your values, for example, openly cheating on their husbands, seeking only profit, spending all their time in clubs looking for adventure, be sure these topics are discussed and supported in their circle. Moral norms in a group always align. Moreover, pay attention to how she speaks about her friends behind their backs. If she easily gives away their secrets to you, mocks their weaknesses, or gossips with obvious gloating, know this: exactly the same thing happens with your secrets when she meets with her friends. Loyalty is a holistic character trait. You cannot be a traitor to some and a faithful ally to others. You must understand that she chooses this environment not by chance. It is a safe haven where her questionable actions are not only not condemned, but receive approval, silencing the voice of conscience. Your personal life, your weaknesses, and intimate details will inevitably become bargaining chips in these conversations, public property to be savored without the slightest respect for your privacy. Trusting a person for whom the concept of loyalty changes depending on the audience is a strategic error that will ultimately leave you vulnerable to the judgment of others' often hostile opinions. The seventh sign is very subtle and manifests in moments when something good happens to someone else. Empathy is not only sympathy for grief, it is the ability to genuinely rejoice in another's happiness without a mixture of bile. Observe her reaction to the success of acquaintances or even strangers. Phrases like, "She just got lucky," "I bet there's something shady there," "Let's see how they sing in a year." These are indicators of toxic envy. A person who cannot respect another's success is deeply unhappy and insecure. In a relationship with you, this will manifest as the devaluation of your achievements. Such a partner will unconsciously pull you down, so as not to feel inferior against your background. Instead of support, you will receive skepticism and criticism masked as realism. Her internal coordinate system is set to endless, hidden rivalry, where any victory by another is automatically perceived as her personal defeat and a threat to her self-esteem. In moments of your triumph, you will not see a gleam of pride in her eyes, but will encounter cold alienation or an attempt to instantly switch attention to her problems to deprive you of your moment of glory. Ultimately, life with such a person turns into the necessity of constantly dimming your own light and apologizing for your successes, just to avoid provoking her inner darkness. The eighth aspect concerns fidelity and boundaries. This isn't just about physical cheating, but about behavior. Recall how she behaved in past relationships or during periods of free-floating. Did she have male friends with whom boundaries were blurred? Does she need constant flirtation with those around her? There is a type of woman for whom male attention is like air. They constantly need confirmation of their attractiveness. One partner is not enough for them. They need an audience. This manifests in social media, revealing photos, provocative posts, a thirst for likes, and in behavior in groups. Men often think, now that she's with me, she won't need to seek attention on the side. This is a delusion. It is an addiction. You cannot fill this bottomless barrel. Even while married, she will create situations that provoke jealousy, simply to feel her power and demand. And the phrase, "you're just jealous, he's my friend," will become the constant background of your life, masking disrespect for your feelings. In fact, you become a hostage to an eternal contest where your peace of mind is sacrificed to her insatiable ego, which requires constant external fueling. This dynamic destroys trust at the root, turning your life into an anxious wait for the inevitable betrayal, which she will likely present as a consequence of your own coldness or narrow-mindedness. Boundaries are blurred not by chance. This is always the preparation of backup airfields, so that at any moment when she gets bored, she can easily flutter over to where the grass seems greener and the admiration fresher. The ninth marker is the litmus test of maturity, the ability to say sorry without any buts. Analyze her stories about arguments. Has she ever truly admitted her guilt? There is a manipulative form of apology. "I'm sorry you reacted that way. I'm sorry, but you forced me to." This is not an apology. It is an accusation. True remorse implies responsibility for one's actions. If a person is never wrong, if in any situation the circumstances, the weather, other people, or you are to blame, this is a sign of a rigid, inflexible psyche and narcissistic traits. In family life, this will turn into hell. You will be forced to apologize even when you have been hurt. You will take the blame for all conflicts just to keep the peace, gradually losing respect for yourself and your right to a voice. The lack of skill to apologize is a guarantee that conflicts will not be resolved but will accumulate for years. Instead of constructive dialogue, you will find yourself in a labyrinth of gaslighting, where facts are constantly distorted to suit her flawlessness, making you doubt your own memory and sanity. Such a wall of impenetrable righteousness eventually kills any intimacy, leaving you in deep loneliness next to a person who is physically incapable of seeing and hearing your pain. And finally, the 10th sign, which is often perceived as great luck, although in reality, it is a harbinger of trouble. This is the overly rapid development of events. If on the 3rd date you are told that you are the man of her life, names for children are being planned, and unearthly love is confessed, do not rush to rejoice. Turn on your critical thinking. Healthy relationships are built in stages. Getting to know a person is a process of peeling back layers. Instant idealization suggests that the woman is in love not with the real you, but with a fantasy image she has superimposed on you. This intensity is not a measure of genuine connection, but a measure of her internal void that she is desperately trying to fill with your presence. This phenomenon is called lovebombing. You are showered with attention, care, and admiration. The danger is that idealization is inevitably followed by devaluation. The pedestal she placed you on is dangerously narrow, and the fall from it is inevitable and designed to be painful. As soon as you show yourself as a living person, get tired, stumble, be in a bad mood, the image will collapse. The reaction will be cold disappointment and aggression. You deceived my expectations. You are not who you pretended to be. A person with such a pattern is looking for a fairy tale, not reality, and in this fairy tale, there is no place for living people with their flaws. These swings from adoration to hatred turn instantly, leaving you in a state of deep psychological shock and misunderstanding of where exactly you made a mistake. Although there was no mistake, there was only the inevitable meeting of fantasy with reality. You are merely a screen onto which she projects her own unfulfilled desires, and when the screen starts showing static in the form of your true personality, she simply wants to turn it off and find a new one. In the end, you will find yourself trapped in an endless chase for that first feeling of your own exceptionalism, trying to earn the love of a person who is no longer capable of seeing you, but sees only her shattered illusions. To illustrate how fatal ignoring these signs can be, I will cite one telling fact from life, a case often discussed in family psychology circles. In the early 2000s, a successful architect from Chicago, Michael, met the woman of his dreams. She was bright, emotional, and seemed like an incredibly deep nature. Michael was not bothered by the fact that by the age of 30, she had 3 broken long-term unions behind her, each ending in a loud scandal. She told him these stories with tears in her eyes. One partner didn't appreciate her, another was too callous, the third restricted her freedom. Michael, driven by the savior instinct, decided that he was the one who would warm her heart. He thought, they just didn't know how to treat her, but I can. This is the classic exception syndrome mistake. He confused her chaos with passion and her instability with depth, a fatal error that many good men make when their protective instincts override their logic. 2 years later, their marriage fell apart following the exact same script. Michael suddenly became a tyrant to her, simply because he asked to consider the family budget, and callous because he worked a lot on projects. He became the 4th item on her list of bad people, not noticing that the problem was not in the partners, but in the script itself that she carried within her. This case teaches us the main thing. If a script repeats with frightening accuracy, only the actors change, but the director remains the same. In conclusion, it is worth saying, recognizing these signs is not a reason for paranoia, but a tool for conscious choice. We are not looking for perfect people. Everyone has scars and mistakes from the past. It is important to distinguish someone who made a mistake, realized it, and grew, from someone who lives in a cycle of repeated, destructive scenarios. Remember the story of Michael the architect. His mistake was not that he loved, but that he ignored the facts for the sake of emotions. He believed he could rewrite another person's history with his love. But people change only when they themselves want to, and this is the result of colossal internal work, not external influence. True strength isn't about saving someone else from their demons. It's about having the discipline to not let those demons consume your future. Your task is to keep a clear mind. Look at actions, analyze the logic of events, listen not to sweet speeches about the future, but to dry facts about the past. The past is the best predictor of the future. And if you learn to read these shadows, you can protect yourself from painful disappointments and choose the woman with whom you can build not a dramatic soap opera, but a strong, reliable, and happy reality. This is the essence of male wisdom, to see the essence of things behind the external veil of charm. In the end, the only relationship that needs saving is the one you have with your own reality, which must never be sacrificed for a beautiful lie. If you want to see reality, not a beautiful wrapper, and strive to understand the true motives of actions, welcome to the Psycheria channel. We don't give empty advice. We give tools for analysis. Subscribe, like if you value honest conversation. And remember, knowledge is the only reliable protection against disappointment.